Destin Japrawira from Desain Komunikasi Visual Unibi, and last speakers will be closed by Muhammad Wahyu Ramdhani from Sistem Informasi Unibi. Before the presentation begin, I kindly remind all the participants to maintain order and keep microphones mute during the presentations. Post your questions in chat box or use the raise hand feature. Participate actively during the Q&A session after each presentation, and your cooperation will ensure a smooth and productive session. Without further ado, I'm pleased to invite Aceh Ardiansyah to present their topic about analysis, implementation of green transition, and carbon tax policies in reducing carbon emission in energy sector. The presentation will last approximately 10 minutes, followed by a Q&A session with a maximum question or 5 minutes. Please, Aceh Ardiansyah, the stage is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Aceh Ardiansyah, and today I'd like to talk about something that's becoming more and more important, not just for the environment, but also for how we shape our future. In this presentation, I will explain how these two strategies, green transition and carbon tax, are being used, what has worked, and what challenges remain. Now, let's move on the presentation. Too much greenhouse gas emissions are making global warming worse. Carbon dioxide is one of them, and it's harmful to life on Earth. Data from the International Energy Agency show the carbon dioxide emission from global industry and energy keep rising. In 2022, the world released a total 36.8 gigatons of carbon dioxide. Most of the carbon emission driving global warming came from the world's major economy. According to Energy Institute, Asia Pacific is the biggest carbon emitter with nearly 18 billion tons of emission. Indonesia ranked fifth in the Asia Pacific carbon emission, producing over 900 million tons in 2022. In Indonesia, carbon emission comes from sector energy, industry, forestry, agriculture, and waste. The energy sector is the biggest contributor to carbon dioxide emission in 2022. That's because 60% of carbon dioxide in the air come from this sector. The energy sector produced about 723 million tons of carbon dioxide in 2022. It's getting a lot of attention since it's one of the biggest carbon emitters. The Indonesia government is working on different ways to cut down emissions from the energy sector. The government aims to cut carbon emissions by pushing for a green transition and carbon tax policies in the energy sector. The research used a qualitative approach with scoping review and content analysis, looking at the secondary data like government reports, article, news, journal, and other reliable sources. Now we move on the result and discussion. Implementation of green transition. Carbon emissions up to green transition are being done step by step, following the energy transition roadmap to net zero, while considering the economy, impact, and how ready sector is. The green transition started in 2021, following a roadmap to reach net zero by using biomass as a renewable energy resource, mainly through co-firing in coal power plants. The main goal of using co-firing is to cut down on coal and replace it with biomass energy. Next is an illustration of the carbon tax application. The Indonesia government introduced a carbon tax and tax regulation harmonization aiming to shift economic behavior toward greener. Low carbon activity, the carbon tax is under a cap and tax system. If a company goes over its emission limit, it has to pay a tax for the extra emission. Egg energy company in this study have started going green by using renewable energy in their operation. Each one use different type of renewables depending on their line of work. Over 5 years, Their first carbon emission from the companies slightly dropped, but the drop wasn't due to renewables. It mostly happened because of the economic COVID-19. In 2022, carbon emission from the energy sector went up again as companies use more fossil fuel than renewables. And none of the eight energy companies in this study have reported paying the carbon tax. So far, the policies have pushed them to cut emissions, mainly because the drop in emission came from reduced separation, not the tax itself. The conclusion is green transition and carbon tax policies have led energy companies cut emissions yet. The real drop was mainly due to pandemic COVID-19, which forced companies to cut energy use. We need to spend up green transition and carbon tax to reach net zero soon. So, to wrap things up, we need to speed up the green transition and carbon tax to hit net zero sooner. Hope this presentation help us realize the cutting carbon emission is important and that we need to get green transition and carbon tax rolling instead. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for presentation, Aceh Ardiansyah, for your insightful knowledge. And let's now continue with our second presentation. I'd like to invite Muhammad Dia Ul Haq to take the stage, who will present about formulation and implementation of business strategy at PO Gunung Sembung Putra in facing the challenge of the tourist transportation industry. To Muhammad Dia Ul Haq, please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Afternoon, ladies and all other than participants in today. I'm Muhammad Yaul Haq, presenting my group members, Dinastia Tania dan Cynthia from Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. On this occasion, I will present the result of our analysis and formulation of business strategies from the case study of PO Gunung Sembung Putra. This presentation will discuss how the company responds to challenge in the tourism transportation industry through internal and external environmental analysis, as well as the formulation of relevant and sustainable digital-based growth strategy. Moving on to the next discussion is the background of this research. The first, tourism transportation plays a key role on supporting travel, pilgrimage, and business needs. With growing consumer demands, the industry faces challenges like digital competition and rising fuel costs. PO Gunung Sembung Putra was chosen as the research subject due to its declining competitiveness amid industry growth, making it relevant for strategic analysis. Next is the profile of Gunung Sembung Putra, the first company operating since 2000, originated from PO Gunung Sembung in 1982 and based in Chinuk, Bandung, mainly focused on pilgrimage tourism service covering 90% of the market, with coverage of Java, Madura, Lampung, and Lombok. Family run in heredity recruitment system resulting in loyal and well-trained human resource. Case strengths specialization in pilgrimage service, adequate fleet and trust, and good reputation from customers. After understanding the company background, let us now move on the research methodology used in this study. There are two types of data in research. The first one is primary direct observation and interview. Secondary financial statement, operational document, and MFLS. Data collection technique. Interview with director and administrative staff. Workshop head, and field crew, and observation with garage and head office of PO Gunung Sembung Putra in Cinanok. Analysis approach, data triangulation, and strategic model of validation and strategy mapping. Now let's move on the internal environment analysis as a first step in understanding the factor that influence a company internal performance. First, PO Gunung Sembung Putra segment the Java Sumatra region, focusing on adults to seniors with an interest in religious and family-oriented travel. Next, its target market includes religious groups, school, and government institutions engaged in regular pilgrimage. Lastly, the company position is itself as a trusted provider of pilgrimage transportation, known for its reliable fleet and family-style service. Next is marketing mix 7P. Is product, price, place, promotion, people, process, physical evidence. Next is the IFAS table strength. Please refer to this table. From this table, we obtain the following result. The total internal strength score is 1.82, indicating a very strong internal position. Adequate fleet is a major strength, supported by management system and experienced human resource. Next is table IFAS weakness. Please refer to this table. From this table, we obtain the following result. The total internal weakness score is 1.12 out of weight of 0.46, indicating that there are still several aspects that need to be addressed. The main weakness lies in customer service and website that have not been optimized, followed by limited fleet technology and digital marketing. We move on to external environment analysis. The process of identifying opportunities and threats from external factors that cannot be controlled. The external environment is dynamic and uncertain, requiring constant monitoring, which is the process identifying opportunities and threats from factors beyond of the company's control. Due is dynamic and uncertain nature, the external environment needs to be continuously monitored so that strategies developed remain relevant and adaptive. Divided into two main categories, macroeconomy environment and micro environment. This table FAS show opportunities from the company external analysis. Please refer to this table. From this table, we obtain the following result. The total external opportunities score is 1.53 out of a weight of 0.45, indicating a fairly high growth potential. Key opportunities lie in the growth of the tourism sector and adoption of digital technology, which can be leveraged to expand market and improve service. This table shows threats FAS from the company external analysis. Please refer to this table. From this table, we obtain the following result. The total score of external threats of a weight of 0.50, reflecting high pressure. The main threats come from competition from online transportation and fluctuation in operating costs, which can impact the company's competitiveness and profitability. From this matrix, we obtain the following result. PO Gunung Sembung Putra is in the cash cow quadrant, has strong internal strength, fleet, human resource, stable management system. Facing external pressure, intense competition, full price, sluggish economy. Growth opportunities are limited, so aggressive expansion is not appropriate. Main strategy: maintain market position and optimize resource efficiency. Next is from this matrix, we obtain the following result. PO Gunung Sumbung Putra is at medium internal strength and high industry attractiveness, indicate a great opportunity for growth. Internal capabilities need to be strengthened. Recommended strategy for PO Gunung Sumbung Putra is selective growth through horizontal integration, cooperation with travel agents and digital platform for market expansion. Based on the TOWS analysis, PO Gunung Sumbung Putra has key strengths such a reliable fleet, experienced human resource, and solid operation. However, weakness main in digital marketing, particularly on the website and social media. Externally, the company has opportunities from domestic tourism growth and digital advancement, but face threats like online competition, full price volatility, and economic uncertainty. These tools, PO Gunung Sumbung Putra strategy focus on the service innovation, digital partnership, human resource strengthening, and fleet modernization. This approach is designed to take advantage of existing opportunities while efficiently addressing weakness and threats. From the two strategies table above, we can see that companies' main focus is on service digitalization, online branding engagement, and premium service differentiation. This strategy is designed to keep the company competitive amid the ever-evolving challenge of the industry. The conclusion last is based on the SWOT, TOWS, and QSPM analysis. The most relevant strategy is the growth strategy through integrated service development and digital transformation. The strategy is designed to respond to the dynamic of the tourist transportation industry and take advantage of internal strengths and external opportunities to expand market reach and improve service quality. Implementation is carried out through digitizing the reservation system, strengthening human resource capacity, optimizing digital promotion, and organizational arrangement that support the efficiency and sustainability. The conclusion of presentation on the development strategy for PO Gunung Sumbung Putra. We hope that what we have presented will be useful and serve as constructive material for consideration. Thank you for your attention. We welcome any question or feedback. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation, Muhammad Diakul Haq. We will continue with our third speakers, and I'm pleased to invite Muhammad Erlan Fadlan to present the topic about the effect of workload and work stress on employee productivity at the ATR BPN Office of Garut Regency. The presentation will last approximately 10 minutes. So please, Muhammad Erlan Fadlan, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for being here today. My name is Muhammad Erlan Fadlan, and I'm from Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. And right now, I would like to share about my research presentation. The title is The Effect of Workload and Work Stress on Employee Productivity at the ATR BPN Garut Office of Garut Regency. Okay, in the next slide, let's talk about background. The background. The first one, within the ATR BPN office in Garut, Regency, there is lack of employee productivity. The second one, based on preliminary survey result, 55% employees are often distracted from their main tasks. Third, therefore, the research is important to conduct. Okay, next slide. Let's talk about theoretical framework. The first one, according Munandar in Kadir, 2023, page 138, workload is the task assigned tasks employed or workers to be completed within a certain time, using skill, potential, and manpower. Okay, the second one. According to Hamali, 2018, 241, workplace stress is an increasing problem for workers, employers, and society. Third, according to Sutrisno, 2018, page 88, productivity is defined as the relationship between output, product, or service, and that employs research of raw materials and money. Okay, next, let's talk about research methodology, research method. Okay, here, the first one, using a quality method. Second one, research location and at RBPN office Garut Regency. The third, using primary and secondary data. Okay, next, let's talk about population and sample. The population, all employees of the ATR BPN office of Garut Regency, 150 employees. The second one, sample is 100 employees. The third, sampling technical, purposive sampling using Slopin's formula. And the last, let's talk about data analysis. Using SPSS application for data processing. The second, collection techniques, observation, interview, questionnaire. And next, instrument testing, technical validity test, classical assumption, test multiple, linear regression, multi-correlation, coefficient of determination, t-test, and v-test. Okay, I think it's done. Before that, I will say thank you for your attention and I'm so sorry for my English. My English language is bad, but thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Muhammad Elon Fadlan, for such informative and comprehensive presentation. And now we move to next presenter. I will invite Dustin Prawira to take the stage, who will present about illustration, book, and character design of 12 authentic samples in Indonesia for young adult age 18 to 25 years in the city of Bandung. To Dustin Prawira, please go ahead.
Greetings everyone. My name is Dustin Prawira. I'm from University of Informatics and Business Indonesia, majoring in Communication and Visual Design. First of all, thank you all for being here, especially to our honored professors, distinguished guests, and other participants as well. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you to the International Conference, Sustainable Development through Interdisciplinary Research in Science, Technology, Economy, Education, and Health 2025. I'm especially excited to be joined by some of the most respected minds in the field, professors and professionals. Your presence means a lot, and I'm incredibly grateful that you could join us. So, let's keep the energy open, the conversation thoughtful, and the creativity flowing. In this special occasion, I'd like to present you about my project, illustration book and character design of 12 authentic sambals in Indonesia for young adults aged 18 to 25 years in the city of Bandung. Sambal is known to be an important element from majority of salty and savory meals in Indonesia. This project was to create an illustration book and character designs of 12 selected authentic sambals in Indonesia. And those sambals are andaliman, burok, cibiuk, colo-colo, ganja, kandasarai, matah, rampai, roa, tempoyak, tudai, and tumpang, where each sambals will represent their main ingredients in a specially designed customs. So for this project, the custom itself, I was inspired by Indonesia fashion show, such as Jember Fashion Carnival, Miss Grand Indonesia, and Miss Superational. Before we going further, what is sambal? Sambal or sambal in Japanese and Sundanese is a sauce, paste, or relish made from chili pepper with secondary ingredients such as garlic, shallot, ginger, and shrimp paste. The most common variant of chili pepper used in sambal recipes is cayenne pepper or cabai merah and bird's eye chili pepper or cabai rawit with a higher intensity of spiciness. The method that I used in this project was qualitative research method. According to Sugiono, he expressed an opinion about the qualitative method, which is a research based on the philosophy of post-positivism, which is used to research the condition of natural objects. Here, the position of the researcher as a key instrument. Then, the data collection technique with triangulation, qualitative data analysis, and the results of the research emphasize on meaning rather than generalization. As for the data collections that I've done for this project, I analyzed existing data such as articles, which related to a brief description and history about each of the 12 chosen sambals. The illustration book created in this project is to promote the diversity of Indonesia's sambals and to educate people about sambals with more intriguing and vibrant visuals, with each sambal's character emits its own uniqueness on their costume based on their main ingredients. Here are the two examples of the characters, sambal tempoyak and sambal roa. So the character design, the concepts itself were the sambals wearing the main ingredients used on the process on creating them. Like sambal roa and sambal tempoyak, for example. Sambal roa wears a roa fish because the main ingredient of sambal roa is smoked roa fish, and sambal tempoyak is known for durian as the main ingredients. The purpose why I've designed the sambal as human beings is to make the people can learn more about the condiments that has been in majority of every Indonesia's cuisines in more engaging way, to see how sambals that always been identical with the color of chili can be transformed in such visual to please the eyes. Here is the 12 selected sambals. Sambal andaliman from Batak, sambal burok from Banten, sambal cibiuk from Garut, sambal colo-colo from Maluku, sambal ganja from Aceh, sambal kandasarai specialized with the Dayak tribe, sambal matah from Bali, sambal rampai from Lampung, sambal roa from Palu, the island of Sulawesi, sambal tempoyak from the island of Sumatra, sambal tudai from the island of Kalimantan, and sambal tumpang from Kediri, Central Java. For the pre-productions, the first is visual references. These are few of my reference used as the key of visuals for each sambal characters. As you can see, the picture on the left is from Miss Grand Indonesia and the picture on the right is from Jember Fashion Carnival. You can see that each customs has its own uniqueness and boldness to its design. The second are the sketches. These are the sketches for each characters. Each design for the custom has its own uniqueness in its visual. I made this sketch using Adobe Photoshop. And for the productions, the first part is the coloring. The sketch was colored in Adobe Photoshop using colors like the main ingredients of each sambals. The left image is the coloring process of sambal ganja and the right image is the coloring process of sambal tumpang. And the second part is typeface customization. For the illustration book, each sambals have their own customized font for their names. I customized Bubblegum Sans typeface for all of the 12 selected sambals. So as you can see here is a screenshot of my process. The third is book layouts. For layouting, I use Adobe Illustrator. The book itself is in letter size. Each page is embedded with the visual assets that relates to each of the ingredients used for the sambals. The fourth are the assets itself for the ingredients. These are the visual assets for 12 sambal characters. I created shallot, chili pepper, basil, belimbing wulu, andaliman pepper seed, durian fruit, raw fish, lime, tomato, clam, shrimp, and lemongrass. And for the fifth is the assets for the sambal. In the previous slides, you all have seen the sambal in its real life form. So for the illustration book, I created the illustrative form of the 12 sambal. And finally, for the post-productions, I'm about to show you all the 12 sambal characters that I've already designed. These are all the characters of each sambals, all colored in Adobe Photoshop. The first are Andaliman, Burok, and Cibiuk. The second are Colo-Colo, Ganja, and Kandasarai. The third are Mata, Rampai, and Roa. The fourth and the last are Tempoyak, Tudai, and Tumpang. As you can see that each sambals represents their main ingredient in very bold and intriguing visuals. But among all these 12 sambals, I have to say that my personal favorites are sambal tempoyak and sambal roa. And for the illustration book, the book contents are the descriptions of the customs and a brief history of each sambals. Here are the images of the mock-ups of the sambal illustration book. So the conclusion is that this project explores the cultural richness of Indonesia through the creation of an illustrated book and character designs of 12 authentic sambals in Indonesia. Targeted for young adults from 18 to 25 years old in Bandung City, this project intended to raise cultural awareness and culinary heritage in Indonesia through a visually engaging way and modern format. By combining informative contents and creative character designs, this project bridges traditional value with contemporary visual storytelling, making sambals more appealing to younger generation. Here are my references and sources. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for Dacinca Prawira for the excellent presentations. And we will continue for next sessions. It's my pleasure to welcome Muhammad Wahyu Ramdhani we will present about information system security audit of internship and final project information system, in short CCAPTA, using NIST SP 826 framework. Please, Muhammad Wahyu Ramdhani, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Wahyu Ramadhani and I'm from the Information System program at the Faculty of Technology and Informatics, Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. Today I will present my final project titled Information System Security Audit of the Internship and Final Project Information System, CICAPTA, using the NIST Special Publication 826 framework. Let's begin the abstract. The primary objective of this research is to evaluate the security of CICAPTA based on the NIST Special Publication 826 framework, which include three main domains: management, operational, and technical controls. I employ a quantitative approach, distributing Likert scale questionnaire to 40 respondents. The results reflect to overall average score 3.58, translating to 71.65%, which place CICAPTA at level 3, implement procedure and control, indicating the procedure are implemented but require future enhancement, particularly in the technical domain where we low score was for logical access control at 51.5%. My background is project. First, information technology is vital for academic efficiency in higher education. Second, increasing cyber threats, malware, data breach, ransomware, and target education institution. And last, information system security is a priority to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of academic data. Next, why is CICAPTA audit? CICAPTA is a critical system for managing internship and final project access, making it essential to ensure its security due to ensuring cyber threats targeting sensitive student data. Why the NIST? The NIST Special Publication 826 framework was chosen for this audit because it provides comprehensive guidelines for assessing IT security across the three domains mentioned earlier. Moving on the methodology, the research involved several key steps. First, I collect data through direct observation of the CICAPTA system and conducted an interview with the person in charge, Mr. Aceh Hendra. I also designed a questionnaire that was validated and found reliable with Cron batch alpha of 0.8. The data was then analyzed based on the NST framework to assess the security posture of Sikapta. Now let's look at the result. The overall security level of Sikapta was assessed based on three categories: management control, operational control, and technical control. Management control score 73.7%, operational control score 74.2%, and technical control had the lower score at 67.1%. The weakest area was logical access control, which scored only 51.5%. This finding indicate that while the management and operational control are relatively strong, there is a significant need for improvement in technical control, particularly in access management. Based on these findings, I have several recommendations. First, for technical improvement, it is crucial to implement role-based access control to exchange security. Additionally, monitoring use activity log should be strengthened. Second, developing comprehensive standards operating procedure or SOP for incident respondent is essential, along with conducting regular security training for both administrators and users to raise awareness. And next, conclusion, overall security monitoring of Sikapta is satisfactory. Position at level 3, implement procedure and control according to the NST framework. However, priority should be given to improving access control and incident response capabilities to ensure more robust security posture. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Muhammad Wahyu Ramdhani, for such informative and comprehensive presentations. Okay, everyone, this is the end of the sessions. I would like to thank to all speakers and participate for your valuable contribution today. We look forward for your participation in the next session. Thank you and enjoy the rest of conference. Before we move on to the next session, I would like to take a picture together. So please everyone open your camera and stop the screen share. Kita okay, please we will wait a few minutes.